Updated, I, 27M. Just found out my girlfriend, 24F, is lying about being on a trip. Is there any hope, or am I cooked? Original post. My girlfriend Amy and I went on our first date around 1.5 years ago, took things slowly while being exclusive, and have been officially dating 1 year. Overall, the relationship has been pretty good, minus some small hiccups in communication that she chalks up to her neurodivergence. Amy isn't great with texting, which I thought was a red flag at first, until I found out she's like that with almost everyone, most of her friends and family included. To give a little background, Amy and a few of her girlfriends go to this conference a few states over twice per year. It's a 2-day event, which they usually turn into a 5-day vacation, because it requires a flight and hotel and is in a nice city. Amy's friend group is typically very active on social media during these trips, posting on their Instagram story during all points: flights, conference, beach, etc. This weekend was supposed to be their 3rd time attending. Amy and her friends have had their flights and hotels booked for a few months, confirmed by some of their posts on social media being excited about having everything booked. Unfortunately, the conference was canceled, but they already booked everything, so they decided to still enjoy a vacation. My girlfriend and I had a date night last weekend. She was telling me how excited she was for her trip. All was good, but at the end of the date, I caught a glimpse of Amy's phone. She was on her airline app, and it looked like she was reading cancellation policies. We had a long day, and I was tired and felt like I was snooping, being nosy, so I didn't say anything. During the week, I asked Amy to hang out the day before the flight, emphasizing that I wanted to see her before her trip. Unfortunately, she was meeting up with her group of coworker friends, so she couldn't. No worries. The morning of her flight, I texted her wishing her a safe flight and happy trip, and she liked my message. We haven't talked since. As I said, she's not a big texter, so we usually don't text much besides planning dates and in emergencies. I figured she was on her trip, so I haven't texted to plan a date. Now on to the meat of the issue. Amy is now supposed to be a few days into her trip, and I noticed none of her friends were posting on Instagram. I thought that was weird because they usually post a lot, but I shrugged it off. That was until tonight. Amy started posting videos of her at a show. It looked fun, and I didn't think twice about it. Until the ending, where the show host called out, "Thank you," and then the name of the major city nearby where we live, approximately 30-minute drive. I looked up the name of the show, and of course, it was in that nearby city this weekend, meaning she wasn't on that vacation after all, and never thought to say anything to me about it. I did a little snooping on Venmo and found out that over 2 weeks ago, Amy's friend paid her back the money that Amy had her sent her for the hotel and car rental. So she's known the trip was canceled for 2 weeks and hasn't said anything to me every time I brought it up. Where do I go from here? I feel like I'm suddenly spiraling, going crazy overthinking everything lately to see if I've missed any signs. I've already started assuming the worst, and I'm panicking. I'm out of town for the weekend, and I feel like this has totally thrown off my trip. Is this worth a conversation, or is the relationship already over? Is there any reason she would have not said something by now? Even if she tells me the trip was canceled right when I see her before I confront her, would that still justify not telling me until after the trip? Please, any advice is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Edit. Her best friend just uploaded a picture of them together during the show, so I know she wasn't there with some other guy, but that doesn't explain the lying. Now for the update. Hey everyone, I had some DMs asking for an update, so here it is. To quickly summarize my last post, a few weeks back my girlfriend was supposed to go on a trip a few states away to go to a conference. I came to find out that the conference was canceled and she didn't actually go, and never even bothered to tell me. She lied by omission about it by not telling me when I texted her to have a good flight. I found out she didn't go because her best friend posted a picture of them at a show in our local nearby city. So here we are, almost a month later. I was wrecked and spiraling these past few weeks, and after being together for almost 2 years, I was too panicked to reach out and ask to see her. During the 3 weeks since her planned trip, she hasn't reached out once to me. That was until yesterday when she casually reached out like we hadn't just ignored each other for 3 weeks and asked to see a movie. So I just finally saw her tonight. In the car, I asked about her trip. Her facial response was really weird, like she got caught off guard. I'm guessing she was expecting me to forget about it after a few weeks of not seeing her. She just said, "It was okay," which instantly confirmed my suspicions. I asked her what she had done, and she said she went to that conference one day, which, as I said in my last post, was cancelled, and went to a show after before returning home the day after I made my original post. I asked her which, and she claimed the show that was in our local city. I was driving at the time and it was dark out, so I waited to confront her as I didn't want to get emotional and endanger us. I confronted her for lying about the trip, doubling down and lying about the conference, and tripling down to lie about the show. Her immediate response was to start deflecting, saying that if this is making me upset, to imagine how she felt that her conference and trip was cancelled. She said how she was so heartbroken and upset that the conference was cancelled, which was cancelled 5 weeks ago, that she didn't want to talk about it. She kept saying that she doesn't owe it to me or anybody else to tell us about her business and what's going on in her life. I, of course, called her out for gaslighting me, to which her response was that she was not gaslighting me. Kind of ironic, I guess. When I talked about how it made me feel and that she damaged my trust for her, she again tried to belittle my feelings by rolling her eyes and saying that it was only a show. This conversation ended up opening to a much bigger issue in our relationship that I didn't mention in my last post. Generally, Amy treated me really poorly throughout the relationship. She was hot and cold, put zero effort into communication, and it never felt like she made a priority. She'd give me zero affection or compliments despite drooling and crushing over male celebrities all day. She's made little effort to connect me and her family and friends. We've talked about all of this a few times now. She would always say she was overwhelmed with some new excuse and promise it would get better. I would cave in and agree to work through things. As expected, things never got better. This time was the same, where she blamed a new job for being overwhelmed, and that's why she's been so distant. But this time was different. I guess her blatant lie to my face and your guys' comments in the back of my mind gave me power to put my foot down. I broke up with her then and there. She kept begging me for one more chance, to think on it for a few days, that she cares about me and didn't intend to hurt me, all that nonsense. But the whole time I was the one bawling, and there wasn't a tear on her face. It really broke my heart ending things, but I've also really grown to hate myself for putting up with her treatment for so long. I'm hurting a lot right now, and I'm scared to get back into the dating world after 2 years of aging and some weight gain. I really loved her with every bit of my heart, and I'm terrified to picture my life without her. I really want to call her up and give her one final chance to get things right, but I know I'd never forgive myself if she didn't change and broke my heart again. I'm hurting bad, and I could really use some words of encouragement right now. Thank you all. Story 2. Update. Am I the a-hole for throwing my pregnant sister-in-law's groceries away? Original post. My brother and his wife Laura, who is 7 months pregnant, are staying with us for a week or so, since he's interviewing for jobs in the city my family and I are in. My kids love having their aunt and uncle around, and everything's been great. Yesterday, Laura went out and came back with groceries. I thanked her but told her that we don't expect them to do this, the kitchen is stocked, and that we're just enjoying having them. She said that she wanted to, and that most were cravings she's been having. I started helping her unload the bags and noticed that a lot of snacks were with peanuts, cookies, crackers, PB, even some sort of cake fusion. It all made me uneasy because she knows my oldest son, 8M, is extremely allergic. I don't keep anything of the kind in our home because we've had an incident when he was younger where we almost lost him. I didn't want to be rude, but I told her that I'm not comfortable with having the stuff in the house. She told me that she would be careful, that she wouldn't eat it around him or his siblings, and that she'd clean up after herself, that she was having intense cravings and needed them. Look, I've had 4 kids and kind of get where she's coming from, although I never had to have something, but every woman is different. I made sure my son knew not to touch any of it, and to leave her alone when she's eating them. That was that. Today, I woke up early to make breakfast and opened the fridge only to be greeted by strawberries dipped in PB left out without a container to chill. The PB jar wasn't sealed properly next to them, and there were sandwiches on a plate because she likes the bread cold and soggy. I was pissed. I've read enough about airborne contamination to know that you can't really determine it, but I wasn't risking it. I grabbed a bag and started throwing everything in it. Our groceries, hers. I didn't care. I was going to take the bag, drive to a shelter, and let them know the situation. Laura woke up while I was on my rampage, came down and asked all upset what I was doing. I was snippy with her and didn't try to hide it. We got in an argument with her, defensively saying that I can't do this, that the baby needs it, and that it's cruel to put a pregnant woman through unsatisfied cravings. I told her bluntly that I don't give a single fuck. If she can't keep to her word, then I won't either, and that she'll live without her craving. My son can't say the same with his allergy. She went back upstairs, packed her bag, and came back down, grabbed the bag of food, and left in a huff. My brother was at his interview and called me half an hour later to ask me what happened. He was upset with his wife, but also with me because nothing happened, and at the end of the day, my son is fine. I told my husband when he came back from work, and he's completely on my side. Am I the a-hole? Mini update. Like some people had predicted in the comments on the other sub, Laura did go straight to my family and started complaining. She hadn't twisted anything, told them the full honest story, and my mother was livid. She called me panting like she ran a marathon after she berated Laura to make sure my son is okay, so I can only imagine the riot act she read her. Apparently even my stepdad gave Laura one of his disapproving frowns. My brother came back in the evening to get his stuff since Laura had only packed hers for some reason. He did apologize for what she did, said that he'll have a chat with her once she's calmed down. She's been inconsolable, he told me, that she's been crying since she left my mom's house, and that she now feels unwelcome and unloved in our family, and he blames me for it. My husband butted in and told him that it's enough, that whatever she's feeling doesn't cover half of what we felt, and that she needs to get over herself, that I've been scrubbing the house from top to bottom for hours because of her actions. I did get panicky and went on to deep clean the whole house, especially the kitchen, but anyway, my brother left after he said that there's no leveling with us when we're being this stubborn. Now that I've had time to get out of the state I was in, I do feel bad that she's distressed and feels unwelcome in our family. That was never my goal. I've been debating sending her an apology, not for my actions because I stand by them, but for the way I went about it. I shouldn't have allowed the stuff in our house in the first place and could have been calmer about it after I opened the fridge. Now for the full update. A lot of people asked me to update, so here it is. Warning, this is a long one, and if I wasn't an AH before, I sure am now. So after my mom berated Laura and my brother yelled at my husband and I took the advice I was given and sent them a long text, which ended up being a bit of a ramble about everything, how fucked the situation is, how we're disgusted by their stance, and how we'll be going LC until we feel ready to be around them again. That was the day after my brother packed his bags and left. I was left on red, and I thought that was that until a few days ago when I got a call from Laura. I thought about not answering it, but curiosity got the better of me. When I picked up, Laura tried to make awkward small talk, but I think she sensed I wasn't in the mood and got right to it. She apologized about her behavior, said she had no excuse other than her hormones, and we ended up having a long chat about everything. By the end of it, I actually felt better and like we could get past it and work on our relationship. She also mentioned that she would still like for my family and I to come to her birthday dinner. It wasn't going to happen in a restaurant anymore. I guess the hotel stay ended up costing them a lot, as some of you predicted, and that it was going to be at their house instead. I told her that I'll talk with my husband and get back to her. I also got a text from my brother apologizing and saying he was just trying to protect and stand by his wife. It was too soon to start mending things, as my husband pointed out, but he left the choice up to me, and I honestly believed her apology because she had never acted like that before, and she seemed actually ashamed of herself. Anyway, my sister, who was also apologized to BC, she also tore her a new one, and parents also got an apology, were also invited, but my sister's kids wanted a cousin's sleepover instead of going with us, so after talking it over with my sister, we agreed for them to have one at my house. My babysitters of a year are my next-door neighbors. They're sweet and responsible 16-yo twins who live with their single mom. They usually team up and tackle on my kids on date nights. There's a reason I'm mentioning this. With my sisters added 2 kids to the mix, I asked their mom if she was free to join their duo, and she agreed. So I called Laura and told her that Richard and I are coming. When we got to their house, Laura greeted my husband and I at the door. We handed her the gift and went in, but she seemed puzzled that we didn't have a trail of kids with us, so I told her that it's just us adults tonight. Same thing happened when my sister and her husband walked in. Dinner was awkward. No matter how we tried to lighten up the mood, and the conversation was stilted at best, but I thought it was at least a step forward. Laura asked this time about why the kids were not with us, that she had made special food for them. I never mentioned the kids when I got back to her, just my husband and I, but I felt like it was my fault that I didn't clarify, and so I apologized for it and thanked her for thinking of them. My sister chimed in that her kids and mine were having a cousin's sleepover tonight and how she was excited about our soon-to-be nephew to join them when he's here and older. Laura looked at her with a smile and said, "Yeah, I'm sure he'll be best friends with his cousins, as in my kids, and his step-cousins, as in my sisters." This pissed me off because we don't use step anything with the kids, but I bit my tongue. For context, my sister is technically my stepsister. I know I used stepdad in my first post. I usually call him by his first name. I consider him a parental figure since he raised me since I was 10, but I had a dad, and the title will always be his. My sister gave her a hurt look, but it was my brother who nudged his wife with a "what are you doing?" look. A few minutes went by again with eating and light convo before Laura asked again about our kids, mainly who was watching them since all 4 parents are here. I told her that my neighbor and her daughters are babysitting, to which she laughed at and joked about how incompetent the girls and their mom must be to need all 3 of them to wrangle the kids. Also for context, I have 4 kids. I'm biased and like to think they're well-behaved, but they're sometimes too much for one person to handle, even me, and I'm the one that brought them into this world. Add my sister's 2 kids, and it's a lot for 2 teenage girls to handle even for just a few hours. We left at 7, it said we'll be back at 11. It has absolutely nothing to do with the girls whom my kids adore, or their mom who is as kind as they come. Before I could retort anything, my mom stepped in with one of her smiles and told Laura that it's so kind of her to offer her own competence and watch the kids next time. That shut her up real fast. After that, dinner was even more awkward until we cleared the table and Laura brought out dessert while my brother got the cake from the fridge. Here's where I lost the last of my remaining brain cells. I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, I saw my husband carrying my bag and trying to usher me out of the front door to leave. He looked pissed, and I was beyond confused, and obviously resisted because, yes, the dinner is a train wreck, but let me at least say goodbye and give a lame excuse for our departure. When my husband tried to literally carry me out, I knew something was wrong, and after a couple of tries, I darted past him back to the dining room. Laura's now ready dessert table consisted of PB cake pops, PB pie, PB cookies, PB brownies, and top it all off, a PB birthday cake that my brother brought in and was sniffing at with a horrified look. Laura then gave me a big smile and said loudly to my family, "I thought I should at least get to have my cravings on my birthday. Get your fill before she throws these out too." I honestly thought for a second that my sister was going to tackle her, and I wasn't that far behind her because all I could think about was the fact that she thought my kids were coming, and she planned this accordingly. I felt so guilty for allowing the stuff in our house the last time, and if my sister's kids hadn't wanted the sleepover, I was going to walk my son into danger a second time. I lost my shit. Without thinking about my actions, I grabbed Laura's head, forced her talk towards my brother, who was, I think, too shocked to react, and slammed her head straight into the cake. I held it down as long as I could while she flailed and told her I hope she chokes on her cravings before I let her go. I honestly wanted to go for the pie too, but I had embarrassed myself enough by acting like that in the first place. So I told my brother that I'm done with both him and his wife, and if they try to contact me or my family again, I'm filing for a protective order. Then I let my husband lead me out. My sister was cackling as she followed us with her husband, but our parents stayed back. I heard Laura screaming profanities after us, but my stepdad raised his voice, which shut her up. I got a lot of jokes about his frown on my first post, but the man is as stoic as they come. Him showing any emotion is a big deal. I remember that his frown alone growing up was enough to literally stop my sister and I in our tracks. BC, we knew if he gave us one that we messed up. I haven't asked my mom what happened after we left, because I can't handle any more heartache from my brother or his actions. I don't think this was the update anyone wanted, least of all me, but I'm completely done with the both of them. Even though my brother looked like he had no idea, the stuff was in his house, happening under his damn roof. I'm sad I won't be in my nephew's life and my kids won't get to know the new cousin they've been waiting for, but I'd rather cry over that than over my son's life. I don't expect anyone to be kind in the comments. I'm 32. I shouldn't have been so naive, and I know I shouldn't have reacted like that, and I'm going to be dealing with that with my therapist, along with the guilt I'm feeling. But please take it easy on me. I'm still shaken up. I'm also looking into family therapy for my kids so they can better process not having their uncle and aunt around after them having been a close presence in their lives.